It is New Year's Day. We are sitting out in the barn, and we just wanted to talk to you guys. Jason's going to join me here in a minute. Barn. We've been thinking a lot the past couple weeks about goals, about our intention for this new year of 2020, and I am really excited. Jason and I are both visionary people. We've talked about that before, and we tend to make really big goals and achieve some of them.
Last one.
And I was just talking to Jason and said, maybe we should make our goals a little lower, more, definitely achievable. And what did you remind me again, Jason?
We need to set stretch goals.
He calls them stretch goals. Goals that are going to just push us a little bit out of our easy, achievable boundaries. And so we're going to just quickly chat with you this morning. We actually have a family coming over soon. But I told him I just want to make this video so I can keep you guys connected with what's going on in our hearts, because you are a huge part of our life. And part of our goals also is growing this community. So we want to keep you in step with everything.
But growing it in a way that makes sense, not just for the numbers' sake.
That's right.
But for quality.
Yeah. Because we believe that this channel, this space, is a place where we have already seen great fruits in people encouraging one another, of us being encouraged, of us being able to encourage you, and to build one another up to live intentionally as families who want to glorify God and live on purpose. That is our mission here. And before we get started with telling you our goals for the new year, I wanted to show you something that I got for Christmas. I have always wanted one of these. Have you seen these before? They're scratch-off maps. So we have one place scratched off already. You can see there, Missouri. Oh, Illinois too. The kids wanted to scratch off. That's where Grandma and Grandpa live. But we've scratched off Missouri because that's where we are. And our plans with this map, this is where we need your help. We want to see where you are around the world. We know that we have subscribers all over the world, and we want to have a visual of what that looks like. So if you would, in the comments, please tell us at the very minimum where you're from, but we would really like it if you would just tell us briefly about yourselves, because it's been really cool, the people that have reached out to us and shared just a little bit about who they are. It's made our lives richer as we've gotten to know you, and we want more. We want more. We want to know who you are, where you're from. So if you could just, at the very least, just tell us where you're from so we can scratch you off and just share about yourself below. Scratch you off, yeah. That sounds really bad, actually. Not that kind of scratch off. Okay, Jason, you ready to join us?
I am.
It's like making some coffee over there, so.
Pioneer way. Top of my wood burner. Like a man.
So one thing that we've talked about, a lot of people they declare a word over their year. And our word, we don't have like one specific word. I just feel like our life is about intention. That is like a summary of what the Lord has put on our hearts and what we feel like He wants us to encourage other people in, especially parents, families.
Right. Yeah, and it was just one of those things, like, all of a sudden we kind of turn around and it's like, wow, yeah, this is the theme for what God has put on our hearts.
Right. Come here. He's in the background, like, throwing sticks. Yeah, throw it on. It's really warm in here because Jason has the wood-burning stove going, so he's like, forget the coat. Yeah, so intention, and that's our goal here on our property, is to use this place as a spot where we could encourage people to live intentionally, and also here on this YouTube community that we could encourage one another to not just amble through life, because it is really easy. I was just thinking back to how quickly the past 10 years have flown for us. And what did we do in those 10 years? In another 10 years from now, will we be pleased with how that decade has gone? Will we feel like we lived the way that God wanted us to, or rose up to the calling that He has on our lives? Or will we just feel like, wow, where did that 10 years go? So and I know you are as well, am very focused on taking time to sit down to think out our life, our daily life, our yearly plan, so that we are not wasting the time that God has given us, but we are using it to its fullest for whatever little things or big things that may need to be accomplished. Did Pepper run off? No, he's right there.
He's chasing
the
again.
guineas. Okay.
Pepper, come!
Do we seem a little bit distracted? We were up late last night. We actually went to a New Year's Eve party with the whole family, and
Good boy.
we made it till midnight. I had planned to leave early,
Lay down.
but Jeremiah fell asleep and Lydia fell asleep and everybody else just partied.
Lay down. Come on.
And we stayed till midnight, so we're running on just a few hours of sleep here.
Good boy.
We know you'll stick with us. Okay, so let's get into this. What are the goals, the big goals for 2020, personally?
So, personally, I have a fitness goal, if you will. After I had stopped doing manual labor for my job, I started gaining weight, and I was getting older, and food is my go-to thing when I get stressed out.
Me too.
So I started gaining weight, and so I'm probably 25 pounds heavier than I probably should be in my healthy state. So that's probably a goal. I don't care about the losing, numbers or anything like
We
that.
just want to be healthy.
I want to feel good. I want to be able to bend down and not make really horrible noises. Like, or whatever. And then maybe that comes with age, I don't know. But at least make less noises. And, be able to keep up with my kids. Like, we started biking. And I can currently beat them, easy. But I want to continue that throughout my life until I can't. So that's my physical goal. Do you have any physical fitness or health goals? Since that's kind of the number one thing that
right.
I feel like.
Health for me. I definitely turn to sugar for, comfort, I guess. So we started off the year, the whole family, on a sugar cleanse because until Silas's birthday, we have 3 weeks that we are just cutting that out of our life. So, of course, health for me has always been part of my life, so I don't consider it like a yearly 2020 goal. That's just part of who I am, so I did not list that as one of my goals.
Okay. What else?
So, the really big, exciting goal for this property. So, this land that we live on, we believe that God brought us here for mission, for a family mission. That it wouldn't just be a place that we live and build up and enjoy for ourselves, but it would be a place that we could minister to other people, that we could invite families here and help them to live intentionally and to just enjoy one another and, find the calling God's put in their lives.
And help them to find rest and restoration. So I think that was one of the goals that I think is coming a little bit more into focus now. We were listening to for my business, for work, I was listening to a book, an audio book, and it was about story brand, and it was talking about telling the story of your company and who you are and why people should care and or what you do to help them. And one of the author of that book, Donald Miller, I believe is a fairly strong Christian, and he has a podcast, and on there was I'm getting into two parts here, so let's stay the first one anyway. Donald Miller, his goal with his wife is they bought 15 acres or 25 acres or something like that in outside of Nashville, and they're building a compound, if you will, to be able to help restore people that are broken. And so, whether that's just coming in and entertaining them or feeding them, loving on them, doing a Bible study, whatever, which was pretty much what we said that we wanted to do before we knew,
Right.
Knew the fullness of it. And I still don't feel like we know the fullness of it,
Right.
but it's just like I said, it's coming into focus, and which is exactly how I would say the Christian walk is. Like, I get frustrated because I don't know, where we're going to be in 5 years or whatever, and to some degree I don't care, because we have this loose vision of what we feel like God is calling us to, and we just keep stepping forward, left foot, then right, and then the details just start fleshing themselves out, and it's like almost like a GPS where it's like, in 500 feet, make a right, and that's the kind of notice we'll get, but that's all we need.
Right. So, and that's part of the reason that we make goals loosely. We declare over our life the things that we feel like God has put into our hearts to do, but then we are totally fine if that suddenly shifts and changes, because we're trying to just walk in step with the Spirit. But you know that we are currently living in a small house. It's been 2 years, almost, right? February will be 2 years.
End of February.
And this year, our goal is to begin building the big house. We call it the big house, right? So there's a lot of steps that we are laying out for ourselves of what needs to happen. And I won't get into all that now, because that'd be a long video. But that is our goal, is to begin building that so that we can start moving into the next step of this property, which is that we would live in this large house, that our current house would be a guest home for these families and people that we bring in, that it would be a place that people can use.
It would allow us to minister more fully to the families and the community or whatever that we feel like.
Right. And our large house is intended for that too. And our plan for that house is that it's going to be a 2-story house, that the first floor is going to be large and open and for communities, so that we can host things, have people in, and it will be almost like a public space for people. Like
an open house. Just come. Ready.
And then our second floor will be bedrooms and the kids' playroom and an office for him. So that will be like more of a personal floor.
Prayer room.
Yeah, we want to put a little prayer room in. Okay, so that's a huge goal, because there are a lot of steps to take to even get to the point where we can break ground.
Right.
Lots. But that's our big goal. Another small goal for the property is that we'd really like to plant some fruit trees.
Yes.
We just want to get started on that.
At least 2 apple trees.
Yeah. So that's just a very small goal, but we've been talking about it for years now,
right.
since we bought this
We've been
place.
we've been here, living on here for 2 years almost. And
right. And
we've
had
owned it a year and a half prior to that. No, probably a year.
Right.
It took us a year.
So
yeah, I guess
sometimes we have to set those really small goals to just give us a kick in the pants to do it.
Yep.
And then goals for this channel are just continue to allow the Lord to reach out. You can help us in this goal if you tell people about us. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I have been so very blessed by the community of people that have gathered in this space that it's exciting to watch it grow, because it's just more people that we can encourage one another and keep each other accountable to the walk that we are on.
Yep. Intentional living.
Yeah, that is the theme.
So some other small goals, and they're more vague and maybe not measurable necessarily, is to continue to simplify our life. And so eliminate the distractions that are in our life. That's kind of like an ongoing goal that probably won't stop. I thought this was interesting. So what was it? Characteristics? No, what was it? Operational goals. So we're like in the middle of building out some stuff, but goal-wise, and Donald Miller was talking about how he says after you, to open the door and say no, after you, to help keep his attitude in check, where it is about the other people and not about ourselves, which I thought was one of those things that I could clearly focus more on other people and their needs and love.
Yeah, and so our next step, I think, from these broad goals is that we have been just talking on a small level of how do we practically flesh this out. So what would be, on a month-by-month basis for the large house, like what do we need to accomplish? We need to finish plans. you know,
And contact the county.
right,
Yeah.
etc. And as far as ministry of encouraging other people here on this place, Jason is really passionate about making sure that we set times to invite families over. That we would, just like we have one coming today, and we have another family coming on Sunday.
Yep.
That we would have those times set out, because if you don't put it to paper, months go by and it doesn't happen. And so.
And it goes back to the you first, no, after you. The idea is that, again, yeah, could we find things to do here instead of spending time with these other families? Yes. Would we progress closer to our goals? Possibly. Yes, probably. But that's the thing, is that along the way, what is it? The journey is the destination.
Right.
So the idea is that while we're doing this, that we're living intentionally and loving people and being able to receive love. I mean, it's not all like we serve. We get ministered to by these families too.
And I feel like that is where our two major goals of the actual progress of creating on this property, the building, those kind of goals. Then we have the people goals. Mm-hmm. And they kind of like go against one another, like one of those balance scales, that we can get really heavy on the getting things done, the to-do list. I know I am very much of a accomplishment driven person, and Jason is like a really hard worker, and so we can get really heavy on that producing things. And that's where we have to remind ourselves that the other side of our goals that God has put on our heart is the people, the reason we're doing it all, not just to build things that will eventually rust and fall apart, but to build them to serve the people. And so we need to stay balanced to serve the people in the midst of it while we're doing it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, well, some of my projects I think are easier than hers, where I can invite people out that could help me, and maybe sometimes the people, because we get into stories or we, go decide to shoot guns or something like that, that we don't get around to the project, or it takes longer than normal or whatever. It's kind of the same way as, raising our children to be adults. If I sit there and take the time to show them how to do the steps of what I'm doing, you're just bringing more value to their lives and your relationship. So.
All right, we probably should end this video so that we're ready to go.
That's right.
When our friends get here.
So I can drink my coffee.
Again, please let us know where you're from. Let us know who you are. Any goals that you have. Just chat with us in these comments below, and we're going to be going through them with our kids.
Yep.
And marking you off on our map so we can see where you are.
It really does bring a lot of joy.
Yes.
So
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.